Welcome back to Clutch Crew Sports, everyone. This is Zach, and on today's episode here, I'm going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their 2022 NFL season preview video. The Buccaneers had quite an off season, actually, a lot of moving parts, which we'll get to. But I'm just going to go over a recap of their off season preview, how this team's looking for this year, and then talk about their schedule. So with that being said, guys, let's get this thing started. Oops. Um, Really, in my opinion, this offseason is categorized for the Buccaneers by their retirements and replacements. Eric does the departures and arrivals sort of thing. For this, honestly, most of these were retirements, guys that were retired, and then the Buccaneers obviously brought in replacements for him. So, starting off with the first big domino was obviously Tom Brady. He retired and then came back like a month later or something. So, Brady, I actually did predict he was going to retire after the season. I didn't predict he'd retire and unretire, but so he's back. Um, you know, there was definitely during that time he was retired, major questions about who the quarterback would be. I don't think the Bucks even have an answer. I think after this preseason, you'll know a little bit better who the backup is between Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask. But neither of those options seem to be, solid post Brady options. So Brady coming back really elevates this team from a good team that might make the playoffs to a team that can win the Super Bowl. So that's the kind of impact, obviously, Tom Brady has. Next, their head coach. So this is another one late in the offseason. Their head coach stepped down. Bruce Arians retired. Not this wasn't during when all the other coaches were being fired and stuff, and the Bucks could interview anybody they wanted. This was much later into the offseason. He stepped down after Brady came back, and then they promoted Todd Bowles to be head coach. Kind of a no-brainer to promote Bowles. He was interviewed by a lot of other teams. Many people thought he'd get a head coaching job somewhere else. He stays in Tampa, and honestly, he's fortunate that he didn't take any other jobs because this is definitely the best, position for him to be in is the head coach of this team with all the talent it's got and his familiarity with it. So you have the head coach, you have the quarterback, but then you have all these other, key pieces to the team. Rob Gronkowski, for example, he retired. The Bucks just signed Kyle Rudolph today. I don't think he's going to be the starter. I think Cam Brady will be the starter. Brady's got a lot of trust with Brady, but that's definitely a drop off. And again, we'll see. Does Gronk come back? That's something we don't know yet. I don't think he will, but a lot of people do. So Gronk could also come back along with Brady. Um, Ali Marpet, he retired in another one of these retirements. They did bring in Shaq Mason, though, from the Patriots, who knows Tom Brady, obviously. So that's their solution to that offensive line problem. Um, Ndamukong Suh essentially gets traded out. He's a free agent still, but they bring in Akeem Hicks to play that sort of role. So Suh's been on the team for 2 years now. Won a Super Bowl, was a key player in their playoff run. Uh, but for whatever reason, they've decided to go with Akeem Hicks instead, who I think honestly probably is a little bit better than Suh right now. So I do view that as a minor upgrade for this team. But obviously, when you have Tom Brady, you can lure in these free agents, especially these older guys who want a chance to win a Super Bowl. So, Kyle Rudolph is the latest example of that. It's possible there's others to follow that, are still free agents. They're old, so they're not, expected to be great, but they can provide something, if injuries happen. So next, I want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the team. They're a Super Bowl team, or they're a Super Bowl caliber team, I'll say. A lot of people are going to predict them to win the NFC or be in the NFC Championship game. So I want to kind of go over their weaknesses, where I think during the season, if you see improvement from this group, that's a good sign, or just, in general, this is how to expose and attack the Buccaneers, as well as some of their strengths as well. There's a lot of strengths, so it was kind of hard to pick, one specific group, but I definitely want to talk about these players on the strengths. So I'll start with the weaknesses, though, and it's just their secondary. The Bucks, they didn't have a good secondary to begin with. They lost. What was his name? They lost the safety to the Jets, one of their starters. They lost some corners. It's just overall been a young secondary, a secondary that often is very aggressive, takes chances. That's why sometimes they have high interception numbers, but they don't necessarily play the best overall defense just because they're so aggressive. But also the other parts of the defense kind of make up for it in a way. And so in the Super Bowl and during the last two seasons, they haven't really been as glaring and as obvious as a problem because the rest of the defense is so good. You don't really view this as a problem, but it definitely, in a lot of people's eyes, is a problem. And so we'll see, especially if teams pass the ball a lot on this team. Now, on defense also, I do think they have a great strength here at linebacker. Levante David and Devin White, definitely one of the best linebacking duos in the league. Devin White last year didn't have as good of a season as he had before in the Super Bowl year, but I expect him in a contract year to really step up. I think he's going to put up huge numbers, possibly be one of the best linebackers in the league. Levante David's been with Tampa a long time, veteran leader, experienced, underrated linebacker. All these sort of characteristics, apply to him. So between the two of them, they're definitely, in my eyes, one of the best linebacking duos in the league, and that's going to help cover up for the safety and corner question marks that this team has. Looking at their schedule here, they start off the year Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, a rematch of last year's Week 1 game. It'll be interesting. This one's not going to be in Tampa. It'll be in Dallas, so it'll be a test. Two playoff teams, say what you want about the Cowboys. They're still a good team in my eyes. Dak Prescott's there. They're going to put up a fight like they did last season. So that's a huge game. Then they play their arch rival Saints in Week 2, who always seem to have their number, also on the road. So I think the Bucs need to avoid an 0-2 start, followed up by the Packers. They haven't had a problem beating the Packers, but that's still a significant team. And then there's the Chiefs. I mean, I literally didn't even look at this before, but I just went boom, 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 boom. That first 4 games in their schedule is brutal. A lot of people might think the Saints is like an easy win, but the Saints have just, really played well against the Buccaneers in past history. So, that's a key stretch. Then it opens up and gets a lot easier. Falcons, Steelers, Panthers. Play a few good teams there in the Ravens and Rams. Then you get the Seahawks in Germany. Will be interesting to see a German NFL game. You get the Browns. Who knows about Deshaun Watson? Saints again will be tough. 49ers, I think, will be tough, especially on the road, traveling from Tampa to San Francisco, Battle of the Bays there. You got the Bengals, Super Bowl team last year, representing the AFC. Cardinals, end of the year Cardinals should be an easy game. Panthers, Falcons should be easy to end the schedule. So the first part of their schedule, though, man, those first 4 weeks are brutal. I think that's going to determine the season for them. But overall, I wouldn't say this is an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to, I think, benefit from a weak division. Panthers and Falcons, I think, should easily be 4-0. I mean, I wouldn't even bat an eye to say that. The Saints, those will be, tougher games. But you get 4 automatic division wins in my eyes. Their over-under is set at 11.5. However, I'm going to go under 11.5. I think this team, honestly, is just kind of gearing for the playoffs. I think now that they've won a Super Bowl, you saw it last year. Everybody was like, "Oh, they could go 17-0." You heard a lot of people talking about that, and it was never a realistic option, you know. And I think they've kind of realized these teams, they don't need to go all out in the regular season. You don't need to be the number one overall seed, as long as you win your division, win enough games to make the playoffs, win your division. That's all that really matters. So I think they're going to kind of pace themselves. Injuries hit them hard last year. We'll see if they come back to bite as well. But to get 12 wins is pretty tough with the schedule, so I'm going to go under. Last year their over under was at 13, and they pushed on 13, so they won exactly 13 games. Vegas thinks they go down by a game and a half. I think they go down by about 3 games this year. Not necessarily that the team is bad or anything. I still think they can win a Super Bowl, but I see 11 wins for the Buccaneers. So thanks for listening and watching, guys, and as always, remember, be clutch.